10 things you didn't know about Mauritania. Hello explorers, welcome to another informative video presented to you by the Explorer, and thanks for watching. In this video we will take a look at a nation referred to as the Eye of Africa, Mauritania. The Islamic Republic of Mauritania is a country in Northwest Africa. It is the 11th largest sovereign state in Africa, and it is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the west, Western Sahara to the north and northwest, Algeria to the northeast, Mali to the east and southeast, and Senegal to the southwest. The country derives its name from the ancient Berber kingdom of Mauritania, which existed from the 3rd century BCE into the 7th century CE in the modern-day Morocco and West Algeria. The capital and largest city is Nouakchott, located on the Atlantic coast, which is home to around one-third of the country's 4.4 million people. You might have known all of this about Mauritania, but then there are still aspects of the Eye of Africa that you had no clue of, certainly. Hence, in this video, we shall bring to you the 10 things you probably did not know about Mauritania. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Without any further ado, here are 10 things you didn't know about Mauritania. Over 40% of Mauritanians live below the poverty line. Despite an abundance of natural resources such as iron ore, fish and oil, Mauritania remains poor. The country's economy is based on agriculture and livestock, and major industries are based on its natural resources, based particularly on iron ore, petroleum and fishing. After becoming independent from France in 1960, Mauritania's independence has been characterized by recurring coups and periods of military rule which has left the nation at a low rate. The most recent of such coup led by General Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz was in 2008. Mauritanians depend heavily on iron ore and exports, fishing and offshore oil wells for its economic progress. In addition to iron ore, Mauritania's other natural resources include gold, gypsum, phosphate, diamonds, copper and oil. But the political climate combined with other factors we will examine as we progress in this video has left the country at its knees, hence most of its citizens still live on less than $1 a day. Number 2. Mauritania's educational system is derived from the French system of education. France's colonial influence is apparent in Mauritania's education system that follows the Francophone system. Primary school covers 6 years and begins at age 6, followed by 7 years of secondary education, which leads to the secondary education diploma, Diplôme du baccalauréat de l'enseignement du secondaire, BAC. Mauritania's University of Nouakchott offers 2-year diploma programs, Diplôme d'études universitaires générales, also called DEUG, followed by 2 additional years for the maîtrise. Since 1999, all teaching in the first year of primary school is in modern standard Arabic. French is introduced in the second year and is used to teach all scientific courses, and of recent, the use of English is increasing. Mauritania has universities such as the University of Nouakchott and other institutions of higher education, but the majority of highly educated Mauritanians have studied outside the country. Number 3. Mauritania punishes atheism by death. Mauritania is almost 100% Muslim, with most inhabitants adhering to the Sunni denomination. The Sufi orders, the Tijaniya and the Qadiriya, have great influence not only in the country but in Morocco, Algeria, Senegal and other neighborhood countries as well. The Roman Catholic Diocese of Nouakchott, founded in 1965, serves the 4,500 Catholics in Mauritania, who for the most part are foreign residents from West Africa and Europe. There are extreme restrictions on freedom of religion and belief in Mauritania, as it is one of the 13th countries in the world which punishes atheism by death. On 27th of April 2018, the National Assembly passed a law that makes death the penalty mandatory for anyone convicted of blasphemous speech and acts deemed sacrilegious. The new law eliminates the possibility under Article 306 of substituting prison terms for the death penalty for certain apostasy-related crimes if the offender promptly repents. The law also provides for a sentence of up to 2 years in prison and a fine of more than $10,000 for offending public indecency and Islamic values, and for breaching Allah's prohibitions or assisting in their breach. Number 4. Mauritania is one of the last countries to abolish slavery. Many nations in Africa made it a point to abolish slavery in their various nations after seeing the grave consequences it brought to the nations during the slave trade period, as well as the act of owning slaves in their various nations. As many nations were on a craze to ban the barbaric act, Mauritania took a backstage approach to the situation. It passed a law in 1981 to abolish slavery, but then following up on implementation of this law was a far-fetched theory to the Mauritanian Law Enforcement Bureau, as we will discover in due course of this video. Number 5. Mauritania is mostly desert. Approximately 90% of Mauritania's land is within the Sahara. Consequently, the population is concentrated in the south, where precipitation is slightly higher. As a result of extended severe drought, the desert has been expanding since the mid-1960s. The plateaus gradually descend toward the northeast to the barren El Douf, or empty quarter, a vast region of large sand dunes that merges into the Sahara Desert. To the west, between the ocean and the plateaus, are alternating areas of clayey plains and sand dunes, some of which shift from place to place, gradually moved by high winds. The dunes generally increase in size and mobility towards the north. Belts of natural vegetation corresponding to the rainfall pattern extend from east to west and range from traces of the tropical forest along the Senegal River to brush and savanna in the southeast. But only sandy desert is found in the center and north of the country. Number 6. The economy is slow despite potentials. Despite being rich in natural resources, Mauritania has a low GDP. The majority of the population still depend on agriculture and livestock for a livelihood, even though most of the nomads and many subsistence farmers were forced into the cities by recurrent droughts in the 1970s and 1980s. Mauritania has extensive deposits of iron ore, which account for almost 50% of total exports. Gold and copper mining companies are opening mines in the interior. In recent years, drought and economic mismanagement have resulted in a build-up of foreign debts. Oil was discovered in Mauritania in 2001 in the offshore Chinguetti field, and although it should have significant potentials for the improvement of the Mauritanian economy, its overall influence is difficult to predict. Mauritania has been described as a desperately poor desert nation, which straddles the Arab and African worlds and is Africa's newest, if not small-scale oil producer. There may be additional oil reserves inland in the Taurdani Basin, although the harsh environment will make extraction expensive. Number 7. Human rights abuses are rampant in Mauritania. The Abdullahi government was widely perceived as corrupt and restricted access to government information. Sexism, racism, female genital mutilation, child labor, human trafficking, and the political marginalization of largely southern-based ethnic groups continued to be problems. Following the 2008 coup, the military government of Mauritania faced severe international sanctions and internal unrest. Amnesty International accused it of practicing coordinated torture against criminal and political detainees. Amnesty has accused the Mauritanian legal system, both before and after the 2008 coup, of functioning with complete disregard for legal procedure, fair trial, or humane imprisonment. The organization has said that Mauritanian government has practiced institutionalized and continuous use of torture throughout its post-independence history, under all its leaders. Mauritanian blogger Mohamed Cheikh Ould Mtahir was sentenced to death after he wrote an article critical of religion and the caste system in Mauritania. He is a designated prisoner of conscience by Amnesty International. In July 29, 2019, the government finally released Mohamed Mtahir after a long campaign from rights groups to release him. He left Mauritania never to return and is now living in Europe. Number 8. Modern slavery exists in Mauritania. Despite the fact that in 1981 Mauritania made slavery illegal, being the last country in the world to do so as we saw earlier, slavery is far from non-existent practiced in Mauritania. Tens of thousands of people, mostly from the minority Haratin or Afro-Mauritanian groups, still live as bonded laborers, domestic servants, or child brides. Local rights groups estimate that up to 20% of the population are enslaved, with 1 in 2 Haratins forced to work on farms or in homes with no possibility of freedom, education, or pay. Slavery has a long history in this North African desert nation. For centuries, Arabic-speaking Moors raided African villages, resulting in a rigid caste system that still exists to this day, with darker-skinned inhabitants beholden to their lighter-skinned masters. Slave status is passed down from mother to child, and anti-slavery activists are regularly detained and tortured. Yet the government routinely denies that slavery exists in Mauritania, instead praising itself for eradicating the practice. The U.S. State Department of 2010 Human Rights Report states, government efforts were not sufficient to enforce the anti-slavery law. No cases have been successfully prosecuted under the anti-slavery law, despite the fact that de facto slavery exists in Mauritania. Only one person, Ormonol Mouminin Mint Bakaval, has been prosecuted for owning slaves, and she was sentenced to 6 months in jail in January 2011. In 2012, a government minister stated that slavery no longer exists in Mauritania. However, according to the Work Free Foundation's Global Slavery Index, there were an estimated 90,000 enslaved people in Mauritania in 2018, or around 2% of the population. Number 9. Food challenges exist in Mauritania. Mauritania is an arid nation plagued by constant severe droughts. Although it has made significant improvement in reducing poverty and chronic malnutrition, its rapidly growing population still faces major challenges, including food insecurity, malnutrition, and land degradation. About a quarter of the population live in poverty, and malnutrition remains widespread, with 90% of agricultural production subsistence-based, large numbers of people being vulnerable to the effects of events such as droughts, floods, and locust invasions, all of which are made worse by rapid soil erosion and desertification due to climate change. A series of major droughts in 2011, 2014, and 2017 weakened communities and damaged ecosystems, forcing many people to cope by eating less and poorer quality food and selling livestock at less than its market value. World Food Programme has been working in Mauritania since 1964, providing relief assistance, livelihood support, and humanitarian aid services. Today, World Food Programme is addressing the causes of vulnerability while working with the government towards achieving its aims of reducing food insecurity to under 5%, eradicating severe food insecurity, and reducing global acute malnutrition to under 2% by 2030. Number 10. Mauritania is one of the world's ship's cemetery. Mauritania's Bay of Nouadhibou hides one of the biggest ship cemeteries in the world. There are more than 300 wrecks from all nations beached permanently on its shores. These ships face their doom on these shores due to turbulent climate and have not left because of the nature of Nouadhibou. Hence, if you are in Africa and you wish to check out the resting place of some of the world's retired ships, just head out towards the Bay of Nouadhibou and you are bound to have an unforgettable memory. There you have it, explorers. Those were the top 10 things you probably did not know about Mauritania. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video, do well to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.